All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ryan Kostrowski. This is Wisconsin Sports Talk. So let's jump right into it. Milwaukee lost last night in Phoenix. It's not a good loss. It's not a good look. Point of today, guys, let's talk about if this is a blip. Is this a trend? Is this something we should really be concerned about? Or is it simply just one team played their hearts out last night and played well, and one team shot poorly? So I think it's a legitimate question, and it's worth addressing. Before we get into it, though, guys, if you are new to the station, once again, this is Wisconsin Sport Talk. This is episode 11. Just started this bad boy up a couple of weeks ago. That's what we're here to do, guys. Talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks. Obviously, we are in the midst, right in the heavy part of the Bucks season. We got Brewers coming up soon. But if you want more videos, slide that finger down over there, press that bad boy, the red button that says subscribe. And for anybody who feels like doing something nice to me today, give the video the thumbs up, help spread me around YouTube, and is sincerely appreciated. A little bit about who I am. Most of you guys know this already, but born and bred here in Green Bay, Wisconsin, left for a little bit, but I'm back now. I do daily fantasy sports analysis for a living, baseball, basketball, or football. So I take a very analytical and boring approach to the game of NBA, MLB, and NFL. So how were my predictions last night and how this game would play out? Well, to quote the great Notorious B.I.G., dead wrong. You're dead wrong. I was way off on how this game was going to play out early in the first half when the Bucks had a 17-point lead. Was feeling pretty good about the prospects that this game would be a blowout like I expected it to. Obviously, come into the game, wrong. So many ways are wrong. So I think the concern needs to be, is this a blip or a trend? And I think the only right answer to this one is it's too early to tell. You know, it's a small sample size. It's a long NBA season. There aren't a lot of 70-win teams out there. So that means that, you know, teams lose games. Even Michael Jordan's Bulls and the great Warriors teams lost games. So you can't overreact based on two losses, but it's still not a good look last night. And ultimately, you know, going 3-2 in a road trip, it's not terrible. And if they asked you in the beginning of the year, you know, if you had told me as a Bucks fan that late in the season, about 3/4 of the way through it, the Bucks are going to go 3-2 on a road trip and split the games out west, I would have said that's fine. I can live with that. But it's how they lost the last two games that just has me a little bit concerned. I don't want to overreact and be prisoner of the moment, but they blew 17-point leads in each of the last two games. That's not a good look. It's just not. They blew double-digit leads in each of the fourth quarter. Very many times this year, we've seen Milwaukee in these situations ultimately clamp down defensively. They did it against Indy right before the All-Star break. That was a great win. Last night was a bad loss. They didn't shoot well. They shot very poorly from the floor, which had a big part to do with it. And again, I don't want to overreact and be prisoner of the moment. We know how this world is today with, you know, 24-hour news cycles, social media. We're all over it. All of us are. That people have a tendency to overreact very, very quickly. You know, doing DFS evaluation for a living. You know, I'll see people overreact all the time based on one or two good or bad games, and you don't want to be like that. But again, it is a touch concerning when you watch the way that they lost these last two games. And even going back to the games against LA and Sacramento, like, the Lakers suck. I mean, I'm sorry, LeBron, your team's awful right now, and you're a part of it. You're not healthy. You're not playing engaged, and the team does not mesh well together. It took a really big, you know, fourth quarter push at the end of it to win that game. The game against Sacramento, we had a pretty big lead, and, you know, that one had to go into overtime. So that's my bigger concern. It's not going 3-2 on a road trip or splitting West Coast games. It's how they're losing these games, or how they're too competitive when you need to, you know, go ahead and put your stamp down. When you have the best record in the NBA, you got to show it a little bit more often because, you know, we talked about the Jazz game yesterday. The Jazz are a pretty good team, and I like what the Kings got going, but this is not Golden State and Philadelphia and Toronto. You should win these games, especially if you want to go into the playoffs as the one seed and be considered a legitimate, you know, title threat, as I've made the case that they should be. So again, I think the best thing that we can say is blip or trend. And for the right now, you know, based on the body of work that the Bucks have given us throughout this season, I'm going to call it a blip. But I am really interested to see what happens Thursday night when they go to Indiana, and what is a good opponent. You know, the Indiana Pacers, they lost Victor Oladipo, but they considered a fight and played really, really hard. I want to see what happens there before I really start making a call on whether or not I feel like it personally is a blip or a trend. You know, a few other points. It's a long season. Guys are mentally and physically trained. I think what we need to, start to wonder is, are they going to be able to turn it back on? This is not a position that anybody on this team has been in before. Couple of other side notes I will say, though, that, we saw Paul Gasol play last night. The Bucks, I believe his plus minus was bad. I should have gone back to look, but just, based on what I was watching, I felt like his plus minus wasn't great. Mirotic has been up or down. We are trying to bring in new people. We have had guys in and out of the lineup. And I'm hoping that Coach Budenholzer gets back to running a little bit more regular rotations so we can get the confidence back and get back in a winning way. Because that has been part of it. When you try to incorporate new guys, it takes away from a bit of the chemistry that has been building all year. And Nico has only been here for a handful of games. And Gasol's first game was last night. Ultimately, I like the sounding of Paul Gasol. I think you bring in a veteran leader when, as he gets to know the guys on the team. He's got chemistry with Mirotic already. That should help in the playoff times because he's been there and done that. We don't have a lot of, savvy playoff experience on this team outside of Gasol and George Hill, guys who haven't even been there all year, but their voices should be heard come playoff time. Other things that happened, I watched last night's game from beginning to end. Former, interim head coach last year, Joe Prunty, is now an assistant in the Phoenix Suns. We lost 2 games. I have to say he probably had something to do with it, probably got his team up for this game. They played good, aggressive defense, and I am never one to say that the refs did a bad job, but they really swallowed their whistles, which hurts Milwaukee more than it hurt Phoenix last night because Phoenix was nailing outside shots, and Mirotic and Middleton, Lopez, and Bledsoe combined to be 6 of 32 from three-point range. Middleton was terrible last night. And again, I also want to give credit to the Suns. Sometimes your opponent plays well. It's not always you play poorly. Sometimes your opponent deserves a pat on the back. And they played hard last night for, head assistant coach Prunty or whoever you want to say it. They were very aggressive. There was at least 5 to 10 times I felt like a foul should have been called because they were really stripping Giannis and other guys as they were extremely aggressive with their hands last night, which is a good idea when you're playing Giannis. It's the best way to keep him from making slam dunks on you is by stripping the ball before he even goes up. But again, credit the Suns, and we shot poorly last night. Shooting under 37% is not a winning formula for the Milwaukee Bucks. Lopez, they give him free reign to take three-point shots this year, and he's something like 2 of 25 against Phoenix, which is a big part of why we lost. If Lopez is making his threes, we win both of these games, but he didn't. And ultimately, that is a big part of the reason that we lost these games. How concerned should we be? I'll go back to it. I'm not going to overreact right now and lose my cool. But if we lose Thursday to Indy and make it 3 in a row, you know what? I am going to start to get a little bit concerned. The playoffs are coming up. You want to go in on your best foot, and we right now are not. Got a home game coming up Thursday after a long road trip, and I get it. It's a long season. These road trips can be grueling. And when you don't have as much to play for, when your spot in the playoffs is solidified, when guys are in and out of the lineup, I get what they're doing, but I think we need to get the core back out there on a routine basis, get these guys gelling and playing well together, go from there. As of right now, I will continue to trust in Giannis and Coach Budenholzer, but I am getting a little bit nervous. I don't like blowing big leads over and over again because that to me shows more than anything like mentally you're checking out from time to time and you're not putting your foot down, whereas most of the season we have seen them put their foot down. So that's that, guys. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back later on. We'll preview the Pacers game most likely tomorrow. Again, if you haven't done it yet, press that red button that says subscribe. The thumbs up is always appreciated. Have a good day, guys. And let's have some confidence that they will turn things back around and we'll get back to our winning ways come Thursday night against Indiana.